Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for what is our final webinar in our What's Next series called Home Stretch to Semester Startup 2022. It's truly hard to believe that the fall academic year is only a couple of weeks away. I mean, we're in the middle of July and it's hot and we're all really enjoying summer, but before we know it, and we'll be at the end of, it's already in mid-July, we'll be in August and we'll be ready for the students to come back, and I'm excited for them to come back. So we also, we're only 2 weeks away also from the fall semester bill due date. So we know that there's still questions out there. We've had several webinars kind of taking you through the process. The last one that we did was billing. That one is available online. It's not under events, it's under tutorials. That's where you can find all of our webinars. You can watch them on demand. It does take, I apologize, it does take me a little bit to get them up online. So when people email me and they said it's not online, they want to watch it again, I'll typically just send you a copy while I try to work through that process. We always try to make sure you have what you need. But there are still some questions out there. So we're going to have this final webinar. We're going to go over some things that we've already talked about. You know, for me, those of you who have been with me through these, you know, my buzzwords, TouchNet and FERPA and all of those other words, you're going to hear those again. But for those of you who have been joining me, I thank you. I have enjoyed providing this series to you and spending time with some of you and hearing your questions. And with some of you, I've built a really good relationship because I'm kind of that face, you know, so you reach out to me and you can continue to do that. We're on this journey together to help your student, you know, get their degree and graduate. So again, who I am, this is me. A really good picture I was able to take of myself. I'm Corinne Peterson. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services. Joining me tonight is Bill Rosario, who we are trying to talk into getting a picture, but he is the Assistant Director of Tuition Planning, and he's my guy Friday. So he's also been joining us, and he helps answer the questions at the end of the session. You are able to put questions in chat. Bill will monitor the chat, but we do like to go through at the end and read the questions for everyone and then answer, because a lot of people have the same questions. So we want to make sure that everyone's getting the same information. So I had talked about my buzzwords before, one of them being FERPA. We talk about FERPA a lot. We've reviewed it a lot within the previous webinars, but we're going to talk about it a couple more times. It's so important because once your student arrives on campus and they're enrolled in classes, they're what we would call matriculated. We're not able to freely discuss their account or their information or any of their educational record with you because we must comply with the Family Education Right and Privacy Act, that's the acronym FERPA, and I apologize in advance. In higher ed, we love our acronyms, so we love to use them all the time, and we love jargon, but we're going to help you get through all of that jargon. A student can complete an authorization form that will allow us to speak to you when you call or you email. That's done for their UOnline account, and that's another one of those buzzwords that we like to use. Their UOnline account is their online portal. They'll register for classes there. They'll review their financial aid, billing goes through there. It's really that one-stop shop place for a student where they're completing a lot of their tasks when they're interacting with the university. We do know that being told, unfortunately, that we can't share information with you is going to be a very different experience for a lot of you because you're used to being able to get open access to your students, their academic life, really. Here at UNE, in a lot of colleges and universities do this. They're a director of communication to the student. It is their education. And then they can in turn determine how to best share that information with you. And again, we know that this is a huge change. It's a bit of a cliff, we know. But again, it is required by FERPA. And really, at the end of the day, we're trying to protect your students' privacy. And I know that's something that's very important to you. They do have that option of completing the FERPA. Again, online account. Again, when you call, we'll be able to share information with you, and we'll be happy to do that once we have the FERPA form. I always like to say personally that the summer is a good opportunity to begin to kind of shift that relationship a little bit so that you can start to have a discussion with your student about the communication plan, come to an agreement about what they're going to communicate with you about, what things you're okay with not hearing about, where are the key areas that you want to be, you want them to forward information to you. We do say a couple of those topics, definitely academics. That's why they're here, right? They're here to get their education. Health, physical, but also their mental health, how they're doing. For many of our students, this is probably going to be their first time living away from home. So we always really try to keep an eye on them and make sure that they know, of course, you're there to support them, but we all are too. We're here too. Relationships, conduct, and what activities they're involved in. So really good topics to kind of share with your student. Hopefully at this point, I've mentioned TouchNet. You've actually been able to go into TouchNet and either your student has set you up as an authorized user, or you've been with them while they've accessed it. So hopefully you've viewed it. And it's really important to anyone who's making payments to have online access, because this is the access to the billing information. The information that TouchNet shares within the account is real time. You could set, I mentioned it was if you're making payments, you can set up to make monthly payments. You can make individual payments. We encourage you to use the portal. I think most of us at this point are used to, e-billing and going into a portal and making payments. So you are able to go into TouchNet and print out a PDF bill. Sometimes you need that, maybe reimbursement from an employer or something of that nature. So you need that hard copy. Just know that those are static. And when I say that, what it means is if you decided to go into the portal today and you decided to make a payment, that once you made that payment, that PDF is not going to update. It only updates once a month. Because sometimes we get calls from people that say, oh, I just make a payment, but my PDF hasn't updated. It won't update. It will only update once a month. But the information within the portal on the account, that is real time. So you make a payment, it's going to reflect your payment right away. So we were talking a little bit about authorized users. This is actually where your student can, they would go and select where they would set you up as an authorized user. They go in and they put in your email, and then you get a link, and then you can set up kind of your own mini account to be able to go in and view the information. Little information here on how a student would do that. Just know this is also on our website, and just a little bit about our website. Our website, is curated in a manner, especially on the student financial services portion of the website, to be able to provide you 24-hour information. And what I mean by that is a lot of the questions that families have are similar. It's how to waive health insurance. How do I get set up as an authorized user? All those other things. We're going to talk about when I go to the startup guide. These are why in the startup guide we have certain action items, because these are the questions that we get asked mostly. But a lot of that information is in the website, on the website. And again, the reason why it's there is we want to be able to provide you with that information, and you don't have to wait to give us a call. So it may be in a situation where we say, go check the website, because we've set up instructions in a way that will help you walk through doing something. So I want to have families start to get in the habit of using the website as a resource, because it's a really, really good resource. Now, I had mentioned a minute ago about the startup guide. This is the UNE startup guide. So when we sent out the e-bill notifications, and they did go out on June 7th, so just so you know, they were sent to your students' UNE email. So if they have not set that up yet, they really need to set that up, because that's going to be that's the official communication channel of the university. We're going to send emails. And it's not just going to be us, it's going to be student accounts, student affairs, their advisor, everyone is going to communicate in that manner. So we just want to make sure that they've done that. As a reminder, again, the due date is August 1st. So when we did send this out, the really cool thing about the startup guide is it has clickable links. So if you notice, we've got action items where we're kind of directing you to do some things, and then there's links involved. You can go right in and click on the link, and it will take you right to that page where you can complete any of these items. We will send you a new checklist every year. It will be part of your e-billing communications. So some things you only need to do once a year, or you only need to do once. So like the FERPA form, that only needs to be done once. It will cover through your student's entire academic career here. But, you know, arranging to make payments or with the health insurance, that's something you have to do every single year. So the student account in July will look a little different than it did in June. In June, when you were looking at your student's bill, you would see a room and board charge that was a standard rate that we provided to everybody. And the reason it's a standard rate is because housing assignments aren't given to students until July. So we kind of use this middle of the road amount. A student's cost may be lower or maybe higher depending on the choice they make for living in the residential halls. So I would say, I use the example of a student needs to live in a single, that's a higher cost than living in a double or a triple or those types of choices. So it really comes down to choices. So in July, once those housing assignments are made, that's going to update. So we really want to make sure that once that happens and students, families get that, you're going in and you're reviewing TouchNet to see what the updates are. So there are those, you know, again, those things that we want to make sure that you did. So did you waive or enroll in health insurance? Every student is required to have health insurance. So we pre-bill for it and then you can waive it. But if not, you can also enroll in it too. So if a student needed health insurance, they can go on the health insurance page of our website. It gives really good information about what the UNE plan is. Complete the loan requirements. So that's for students. Once they accept their loans, they also have to complete some documents with the Department of Ed, and then a couple on our site also. So one of the forms that complete terms and conditions. So terms and conditions is a document that we set up for students so that they understand the requirements of receiving their aid. So that's what the terms and conditions of receiving their aid. Also, the Department of Ed requires them to do entrance counseling and the master promissory note. So just a note about those documents, they do not update in real time. So a student may do them, but we have to wait for the information to feed from the Department of Ed. They'll send us a feed. Sometimes it happens twice a week, sometimes it's once a week. You know, sometimes students are being diligent, and we love that they're being diligent, where they'll complete the document and then they'll call us and say, this hasn't updated. Yeah, because we have to wait for that feed. So we always like to say, you know, periodically check your account for your updates. The wonderful thing about our website and the technology we use, it's up to date, it's current, it's going to give you the best information. So we sometimes get emails from families saying, can you just check? And the website is telling you what you need to do when you need to doing it. So we want you to have that faith and confidence in the site like we do. We have that faith and confidence to share it with you so that you can stay updated. Send scholarship letters. So for any of you, and thank you, I've actually been being sent personally to me a lot of scholarships. So it's good to see that our students are being awarded a lot of scholarships. That makes me excited for them. Those can be sent to the SFS email. So that's S as in Sam, F as in Frank, S is in Sam, at une.edu. Send a copy of I call it the award letter. So it's that letter that says, congratulations, you received the scholarship. We will actually put that as a memo item on the on TouchNet on the bill. And then the reason why it's memo is it's money that we know is coming, but really it's not received until the organization that awarded the scholarship sends us the money. So like to say once the Lions or the Kiwanis or I think it was Fred Flintstone, the Mighty Water Buffalo, once they send that check or that EFT or they send us the money, you'll then see it no longer authorized. It will be there and be deducted from your student's bill. Did you make payment or set up your payment plan? When we get to August 1st, a student will have to have a plan in place for their tuition. When we say plan, it could be either the payment plan is set up or they've taken a loan to cover the balance. So we're going to talk about, we're going to dig into loans a little bit. Those of you who have been on previous webinars, you're probably old hats at this point when it comes to the information about loans, but we want to make sure that we're reinforcing it. So we're going to talk about it again, and we're really going to dive into the differences with the loans. And then applying for loans and complete requirements, when we're saying that here, we're talking about that loan to cover the balance, either the plus loan or the private loan. And again, we're going to talk about that a little bit. So just to review aid in general, there are two different types of aid that you'll see on a billing statement. If you notice, there's what we call gift aid and then what we call self-help. Gift aid, the easiest way to explain it is to say it's the free money you don't have to pay back to anybody. So that includes your merit scholarship, your student's merit scholarship, and they would have received that based on their high school GPA. They didn't need to complete the FAFSA to receive that award. But the Northeaster and the federal grants, the state grants, those you do need to complete the FAFSA to receive those because they're need-based. So they're based on that information that your family put on the FAFSA and whether it told us that you had quote unquote financial need. Then the outside scholarships. So those are those separate applications that your student completed with Kiwanis or the Lions or their high school to receive, those scholarship dollars. Those are not affiliated with UNE, but we will accept the money on your student's behalf to cover portion of their tuition. Now the other side of gift aid is self-help. And you'll notice that loans are under self-help too, and that's because it's money that you'll pay back. So it's considered that you're helping yourself. And you can notice there's a number of different types of self-help options. We really encourage your family to use a combination of these to cover students' tuition. Under self-help, you see the subsidized direct loan and the unsubsidized loan. Those loans are in the student's name. FAFSA needs to be completed. Those were the ones we were talking about previously where the student needs to complete some of those other documents. The tuition payment plan. And the lovely thing about the tuition payment plan is even though there's a $25 fee to set the payment plan up, there is no interest on that. So you're just making straight payments. And the Parent Plus loan and the private loan. And again, we're gonna actually talk about the differences between those loans and kind of go into explaining a little bit about some of this aid. So the student loan requirements, the subsidized and the unsubsidized loan, or sometimes you'll hear us say sub and unsub. That's kind of because we love our acronyms. So subsidized, all that means is that the government pays the interest on the loan while your student's in school. The unsubsidized, they don't pay the interest on that loan. So the interest accrues. And what will happen is it will be capitalized. So every time they make a disbursement, they'll charge interest and then they will add that interest to the principal of the loan. So just keep that in mind. So to accept the loans, student has to do, if remember we mentioned the T, we call it the T and C, the terms and conditions. That's the conditions that they have to meet to keep their aid and receive their aid. They have to accept the loans. They have to do the master promissory note and the entrance counseling. And those are actually done, I think, before I mentioned, they're done on the Department of Education website. That's the link to the website. Is studentloans.gov. So it's easy enough. It's right there. They have gotten much, much better with the way they're presenting information to students. Just within the last couple of years, I feel like the Department of Ed has really stepped up. We're trying to help students manage loan debt, manage, financing their education. So the amounts that a student can borrow are really based on what level they are in school. So first year student, the maximum they can receive is $5,500. And if you notice the amount goes up, it's like the Department of Ed says, as you continue to show more commitment towards your education, as you continue on, we'll allow you to borrow a little bit more money. And that's really why you'll see that amount kind of increasing. So the direct payment option, there is always the option to pay by phone. So it's credit or debit. Unfortunately, it's not, we can't do e-check. MasterCard, Visa, and Discover. You can always call us and we will take that over the phone. Unfortunately, we can't take an electronic check or American Express. You always have the option. You can just mail us your check if you want to pay by check, or if you want to, typically it would be if you paid by check. You could send that to our office directly to Hills Beach Road. We would say put attention Bursar or attention Student Financial Services to make sure that they send that directly to our office. We want to make sure they route it to our office. That does take probably up to 2 weeks to update. So if you're not in a hurry, but if you want to make sure that payment is applied immediately, we recommend online. You can go through your credit card or your debit or your checkings and savings. You can do when we say direct payment, we mean one-time payment, or again, you can do set up for the payment plan. And we're going to review that a little bit, what that looks like when we're in touch now. So if you see here, we have, we'll call the student Teal. That's my daughter's name. So it is a lot of times, if any of you join us for other webinars, and you see a student Teal, that's not a student here that I took their information. I usually use her as a placeholder. So let's say this is Teal's account. And here's her balance due. This is where she's logged into TouchNet. So once a student is logged in, they'll be able to view their activity. And they do that right there on the view activity button. You can also look at their payments. They can view their statements here. And then we're actually going to talk quickly about how you can make a payment in that portal. We're going to show you the tuition payment plan, but then we're going to walk you a little bit on how to set up the payments. So the tuition payment plan, the chart breaks down in this manner. So depending on when you sign up for the plan will be the number of payments you make. So if you sign up by the end of July, it'll be 5 payments. If you were going to make 6 payments, there was a payment that you would make in June. Then August, if you sign up in August, it's 4 payments. September, it's 3 payments. October will be 2 payments. And that was the same thing for the spring semester. Again, it's a $25 fee to enroll, but there is no interest to make those payments. So if you're setting up a tuition payment plan, as I mentioned, I was gonna show you a little bit on how to walk you through that a little bit on how you would do that. So you can enroll in the payment plan, and there's a button right there where you would set that up. And then this is what the screen would look like when you decided to set up for that payment plan. So you just want to make sure that your student is an undergraduate. So you're gonna choose fall 2020, not fall COM. That's for the students that are part of the College of Osteopathic Medicine. That's what COM stands for. So you would want the other one. So you would select that, and notice the installments would be 6. It's already telling you it's going to be 6 installments based on the date that you're setting it up. So this is what the enrollment looks like. And again, it's going to be based on the number of months you have left to You have the option of setting up whether you want to set up for automatic payments, where whatever payment system you use at that time, they'll go back to that to make your payment. So if you put your credit card in file, they're going to go to your credit card every month, and that's where they're going to charge that payment, or your checking account if that's what they're doing. Or you could set it up to go into the portal every month and make your payment. And then you'll have the payment, they'll show you the payment plan agreement. So it will show you annual percentage rate, which there isn't any because there's no charge to sign up for the payment plan. It will show, it said the amount financed, but it's really the amount that you're paying and then the total number of payments. So the amount that you see there is the amount you all paid after you've made all your payments, which is just the amount that's due, plus the $25. You did pay the $25 to set up the payment plan. And then you'll choose your payment method, so credit or debit card. You'll put that information in. And then you'll sign the payment agreement. And you really, what you're doing, you kind of check a box that you're accepting it. And then you'll receive confirmation, and you'll receive a payment receipt. You're also going to, that will also go to you by email. So it won't be something, I'm a person that screenshots everything because I think I'm not going to get an email and I want to have proof. So they will email that to you also. I did want to touch very quickly on UNE scholarship policy. And the one thing I can say is that the scholarship policy at UNE is extremely generous. If a student receives a scholarship after we award them, we will not lower their gift aid. So you might see at many colleges and universities, a student receives let's see, the merit award, and then they start to receive scholarships and they lower the merit award based on the amount of the scholarships. We don't do that. We allow the student to keep the scholarship and keep their merit aid. We will only reduce aid if we have to because the student doesn't have room in their cost of attendance for the scholarship. And cost of attendance, I always describe as, and some of you have heard me say this before, it's the pie. But instead of taking slices out, you put slices in. So you can only put so much in the financial aid pie. So once you're full, you can't put another slice in. So think about it that way. And that's the same thing with a scholarship. So if you wanted, we wanted to allow the students to have the scholarship and they didn't have any more room, we'd have to take some slice out, put another slice in. What we usually try to do is reduce the loans or the work study before we reduce any of the gifted aid. So we encourage students to apply for as many scholarships as possible. We say, and those of you who have been with me through these know, we say we treat it as that's their job right now over the summer, is to make sure that they can get scholarships. We also want students to make sure they're not overlooking the small scholarships. I think everybody's always interested, you know, big money, no whammies. But there are a lot of small scholarships that go unawarded. And when I'm saying small, $250, $500, anything less than $1,000. So really looking into those, you can slowly kind of build up to a larger amount with little scholarships. You know, every bit certainly counts. So we've talked about all kinds of ways to fund your students' UNE education. Scholarships and grants, of course, direct payments, student loans. We just always want to, you always want to make sure that when you're filing for financial aid, you definitely do the FAFSA because it will help you guarantee that you're getting the most favorable funding possible. Then your out-of-pocket payments, tuition payment plan, of course, which we've discussed a couple of times. Then you may also find the need to take out a loan. And we did talk, I did mention we were going to talk about loans a little bit. A lot of times, and I think I've said this before, families a lot of times do a combination of some. They do have some savings, but they also do need to have the student have an additional loan. So there are some differences between the Parent Plus loan and the private loan. So the Parent Plus loan is a fixed interest rate loan. This is what the upcoming rate will be. So that will be any loan after October 1st, but it is a fixed interest rate. It's a parent loan only. It can't be transferred to the student after the student graduates. They don't use a credit score. They only look at if you have adverse credit. But even if you had no credit, they would allow you to take the loan as long as there wasn't anything adverse. The private loan or the private parent loan, those interest rates could be fixed or variable. It is based on FICO, so they do run credit. There's typically no fees to borrow that loan, but most students need a cosigner. They just don't have enough most of your students are 17, 18, 19. They just don't have enough credit on their own to take the loan out. So they usually need a cosigner. And the difference with the private loan, is that anybody can be the cosigner on that loan. So it doesn't need to be the parent. It can be grandparent. It can be I always say uncle, cousin, brother is kind of the term that I use, but anybody who's willing to, support the student in that way can take that loan. But really, how much should you borrow? How much can you borrow? Before you determine that, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can calculate that. We do get calls where people say, I just need to know how much to borrow. With the bills being up, always keep in mind, we're going to go through direct cost of attendance, and what that looks like with a balance. But also always remember too that those amounts won't be mirrored for spring, especially if you waive the health insurance, because we only charge the health insurance in fall. So once that's waived, the amount for spring will be the same amount for fall. So let's keep that in mind. So we have the cost of attendance, which I mentioned before, which the direct costs are your billed costs. So those things we see on a bill, tuition, room and board, the other fees, and then plus your indirect costs. So those are the things that are not billed: transportation, book supplies, things that we say you would pay out of pocket. That's how you come up with the cost of attendance. That's where that number comes from. So you take cost of attendance and you minus your financial aid or other funding. So financial aid, scholarships, loans, the student loans, the federal student loans, all of those things, that will equal your maximum loan amount and the maximum that you can request. So here's an example, and this is the current cost of tuition fees, direct cost right now for the university for the upcoming year. So let's say that a student's aid equaled $25,300. So that would be their merit award, their loans, any other grant scholarships that they received. So if we minus that amount, it would be $35,030. So that would be the maximum amount that you could borrow in a loan for that academic year. You could go up to that amount, but a lot of times, a lot of families are just trying to cover that direct cost. So we can always help you work through that too. This is exactly what you need, but you'll also be able to see that through TouchNet. We're talking about TouchNet again, where you'll see the amount that's due. And remember, fall and spring will mirror each other. So I did mention we were going to talk a little bit about the loans and the loans to cover the balance and what those look like. So first thing I want to talk about is the PLUS loan. PLUS loan is the fastest and easiest loan for a family to get. And that's done intentionally because it's a Department of Education loan and it's backed by the Department of Ed. I always tell families your family has priorities, and your priorities and what's important to you is going to decide which loan you end up going with, whether it's the PLUS loan or it's the private loan. So the parent loan has a fixed interest rate. Depending if you have really excellent credit, it may not be competitive with the other loans, and there is a fee. But if a parent knows that they their credit maybe has a couple of bumps, this might be a better loan for them. And they can do that right through the Department of Ed website, which you're seeing right here. Even from here, they've made it even nicer than we're looking at it right here. They've really worked on that. They'll notify you immediately if you're approved or denied. That's the good thing about any of the lenders. They'll tell you right away. So if you're approved, they will send that information to us. They'll actually tell us if you're approved or if you're denied if you apply. So if you're approved, you'll know, and they'll send it to you right away. They're going to give you three options. They're either going to say you're approved, you're denied, but you can get an endorser, which would be a co-signer for the PLUS loan, or you're just straight denied. If a student, if you're denied, your student is eligible for some additional federal loan. It's not a huge amount of loan. It's not the same amount that you can take in the PLUS, but it is a little bit of additional loan dollars. You do want to make sure if you do take the PLUS loan that, again, you complete the master promissory note and those other requirements. Parent borrower, as we mentioned. And then you want to request the PLUS loan. And then complete the direct PLUS loan promissory note. As we had mentioned, you will have requirements for your loan just like your student will. So, and then you also have to complete entrance counseling. So like the student, you have to complete the master promissory note and entrance counseling to take the PLUS. So there are advantages and disadvantages of either option. And again, like I had shared, what you decide to do is really going to be based on what your priority is and what your situation is. So, you know, the disadvantages of the PLUS loan, the rate may not be competitive, and it does have a decent origination fee. There's no cumulative loan limit, so you could borrow and borrow and borrow. I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage, but you know, with a lender, when they're checking your credit, they give you a maximum. There's no maximum on the PLUS. But the advantages are the fixed interest rate. And I do like to say that there are protections built into the PLUS loan that you won't see with the other loans. As you notice, you know, a morbid thing to think about, but death, disability, there's a discharge for that. So if the person who took the loan passed away, the loan would be discharged. There's no, again, that isn't, we talked about the loan limit, you know, being a disadvantage, but also an advantage. They don't look at debt to income ratio. That loan you can get very quickly. And then if you notice, it says PSLF. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. So PSLF is Public Service Loan Forgiveness for parent borrowing a PLUS. That can also be for a student in their loans. So, or to be eligible for PSLF, a parent or the student has to work at a nonprofit for at least 10 years while they're making their payments on the loan. So it's really interesting right now. And I know you're hearing a lot of information about loan payments and forgiveness that's kind of going around in the circles and in the news cycles. But with the PSLF, what was happening was students were signing up, they were working there 10 years, and then when they would go for their forgiveness, the Department of Ed would say, well, you were in the wrong payment plan. So what they did right now, and I'm actually saying this not necessarily for the students, but for any of you parents out there who have student loans and you fall into this situation, me, myself, I've actually applied for forgiveness. I've been making my payments. Someone, yes, I'm someone who put themselves through school and had to take loans. So you can, right now they're doing a special loan forgiveness. So as long as you made payments, doesn't matter which plan, they'll accept them towards the forgiveness. So you can always reach out to the Department of Education on that. I definitely wanted to just add that in, kind of a side note, because I want to, that is up in October. So I want to make sure anybody, you know, I just put that out there. So anybody wants to go look for more information, it's on the Department of Ed website. But back to regular public service loan forgiveness can be for the parent borrowing the PLUS or your student. You have to work at a nonprofit for 10 plus years. You do have to convert your loan into a federal direct consolidated loan. So what that really means, when you borrow from year to year to year, let's say your student graduates in 4 years, you take the plus, you have 4 separate plus loans. You can consolidate them into one loan, but the person who services your loan would be the Department of Education. Make those one-time payments for 10 years, and then whatever balance is remaining is forgiven. Just remember that any, loan cancellation could be taxable, is taxable. And it's truly based on federal policy. As I shared before, it's something they're certainly looking at, and I hope that any families out there can take advantage of that now, because they're kind of giving a bit of leeway on that. So with the private loan, what we would say is if you're planning on utilizing the private loan, you should be applying now or already have applied. That cycle is a little, it takes a little longer. That connection we have with the Department of Ed is kind of quicker. So if you go with a private loan, again, I would be recommending that you're doing that now. You're applying now, or you're finishing up a process, because this is kind of the process to go through the application. You have to choose a lender, then you have to apply with a lender, you'll receive a decision. Then they do have their own separate documents that they would want you to complete. So lender, the disclosures, you have to do those right away. Then what will happen is they will send a notification to UNE to let us know that you received the approval, and then the loan will disperse after ad drop. And that's a protection for you and for your student, that if for some reason they decided not to attend, they wouldn't be sending the money to us. So if you have not had an opportunity to find a lender yet, we do have a list of our preferred lenders. That said, you can choose anybody you want to work with. You don't have to pick somebody on this list. I always use the example of Chase. You work with Chase, you have a loan with Chase, you have your car payment with Chase, your mortgage with Chase, and they offer a loan. Please feel free to work with them, whether it's them or you belong to, a smaller bank, a credit union. You can always go check with them and see if they could offer you more competitive rates. But this is the link that you would follow to get to where our private lender list is. You would want to make sure you choose undergraduate, because your student would be an undergraduate. And then here's the snapshot of our recommended lenders. Just quickly, again, the features of the private loan. Their interest rate could be fixed or variable. Really, a lot of the features of these loans are going to be dependent on the co-signer's credit. So the better their credit, the better the terms are going to be. You can get rate reduction for making automatic payments and other types of rate reductions. When you decided to apply to the lender, they'll give you all that information up front so that you are able to decide if this is the best loan for you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about work studies. So if any of you have already gone to nuts and bolts, you've heard me talk about federal work study. If you've been with me for some of the webinars, you've heard about work study. Now, the only thing I do want to share about work study, it is offered as a need-based financial aid fund, but it is not deducted from a student's bill. I always say, think of it as an opportunity to work. So you have some students that will work and some students that will not work, and they will earn those funds as a paycheck, and they'll get a W-2 at the end of the year. So for a student to participate in that, they need to complete new hire paperwork. Again, that's documents that are found at UNE. They can apply for a job starting next month. On our website, there's a link to that on our website. And then once they're hired by an employer on campus, and speaking of employers, I am hiring, so I'd love to have your student come work in our office and learn financial aid. They would obtain the authorization form from Student Financial Services. It's kind of, it's like a contract, but it's not a contract. student signs it, the employer signs it, whatever department they're working for. I know people get concerned. They say, well, my student wasn't offered work study. No worries at all. If your student was not offered work study, there are still plenty of jobs on campus. You don't have to have a work study board to work. Career Services uses Handshake. That's the software they use. And we have a beautiful jobs board where there are plenty of jobs. Me, myself, I'm hiring 5 to 10 students. So if my jobs are still open and your student says there's no jobs, then you know there are still jobs there. And again, our job is up, and we would love to have your students come work with us. They learn so much about financial aid. So we've been talking about completing the work study paperwork. So that's the same. I'm going to pop them up really quickly. Some of those are the same documents you completed when you started a job. I have been with UNE for 5 months now. So these are the same documents that I had to complete. So of course the W-4 form, Maine has its own W-4 form that you have to complete. The UNE employee confidentiality agreement, that's different. That's unique to UNE. And it's just that students know that they may be hearing sensitive information, and we want them to know that they need to keep that information in confidence. So they're agreeing to that with the confidentiality agreement. And then also a student can sign up for direct deposit. It's going to say that we need a voided check or a bank authorization letter, but we've actually moved on from that. So a student can just fill out that form and send it. But a lot of times now you can complete that right on our website, right in Google Direct Deposit. It comes right up. That goes to our accounts payables department, and they get the student all set up on that. Again, documents found online, they can get it through you online. So the other form they'll have to complete is the I-9 form. So this form's a little different from the other forms. Those are the forms you can complete, mail to us, drop off, Dropbox. The I-9 is different because it's a document required by the Department of Homeland Security, and they require whoever's taking the form to view the student's original documents. So you always hear us say, this one must be done by the student in person because we need to view their documents. So what the Homeland Security is doing with this, with the I-9 form, is they are confirming that a student is who they are. So it's identity, they're confirming identity, and they're confirming that they are eligible to work in the United States. So they're confirming 2 things. Now, there are some documents that do both of those things, and there are some documents that only do one of those things. So if you notice, you see passport or which looks like a Pennsylvania license, and go birds, Pennsylvania license and social security card. The passport does both of those things, but the license and the social security card only do one of those things. So it's either a passport or a license or something with a photo ID that identifies the student, and then social security card. If you want to see if there's other documents, there are other documents. You can actually Google I-9 and it will bring up the list of documents that you can utilize. And there's a number of different documents you can use. The work study authorization form, and I had mentioned that before, that once a student finds a job, again, I am used to calling it the work contract. It's really not a contract, but it's, it has the student's information and the employer is agreeing to hire them. Those documents are sent to our financial aid director here in Student Financial Services. A student has to complete it every year. So a student has to be rehired every year. So hires go for the academic year and then they terminate at the end of the year. So if your student finds a job working with someone they really like, they hire them back every year, they'll complete the authorization every single year. So I hope this information that we provided to you tonight was informative. I hope it was helpful. I hope it wasn't too dry. If you haven't set up your payment arrangements already, we really encourage you to get that set up, enroll in the tuition payment plan as soon as possible. We just want to make sure that neither you nor your student is, we don't want to see you be in a panic as we get closer to August 1st. We can help you now. We can help you get through that process. We want we want you to be able to concentrate on buying. You notice we have a beautiful picture of a lovely dorm. I like to say, go buy the Target sheets. So we want you to be able to enjoy that part of the experience, helping your student decorate their dorm room, rather than still being concerned about how you're going to cover that balance. So let us help you work through that early in the process so that you can enjoy those fun things as part of the process. So just a little bit about our office. We are a very service-oriented unit, so we love those of you who have reached out to me or called our office. You know, we get right back to you. We love talking to students. It's really part of, I think, what makes our office fun, unique, in why we do what we do. Our office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can actually call. Give us a call. You'll get somebody on the phone. They'll be more than happy to walk you through any process. You can email us. We respond to emails usually within 48. I like to say business hours, because of course, if you send an email on Friday, we may not get back to you till Monday or even maybe Tuesday. We have two different locations, of course, in Biddeford, one in DeCary Hall at 107. Or if you are on Portland, we are in 111 McDougal Hall. Appointments are always available, but we take walk-ins, phone calls. Like I said, we put the phone right up. You'll be able to give us a call. There's our phone number. There's our email and our website. We will potentially have some upcoming webinars in August and September, one working your way through college and effective scholarship searches. We're actually taking a look at that right now and seeing if those are the most effective webinars that we should be doing at this time of year. So that's why we kind of have to be determined right now, because we may find it, we may hear feedback from families that there's a better topic, or we'll notice that we're getting a lot of questions about the same topic, and we'll say that's something that we probably need to build a webinar around. So definitely we will communicate that out to you and let you know. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you. We're excited for the upcoming year, and please have a good evening.